The battle over Trion Prime was already lost. The black space above the planet burned with fire and broken ships. Alliance cruisers drifted without power, their hulls glowing red from plasma hits. The Xeran Empire fleet moved like a swarm of metal beasts, their weapons cutting through everything that moved. Captain Yara stood on the bridge of the Alliance flagship Vanguard, her hands gripping the edge of the command table. Every screen around her flashed red warnings. Ships were dying faster than she could give orders. "Pull back. Regroup behind the planet's orbit," she shouted, her voice trembling but strong. The communication officer turned, fear in his eyes. "Ma'am, half the fleet's gone. We can't hold them." The sound of explosions filled the bridge as the hull shook violently. Outside, another Alliance destroyer broke apart, scattering metal across the stars. Yara's heart sank. They were supposed to hold Trion Prime for one more day, just one, but the Xeran came with triple the ships. The enemy's war engines filled the void, their dark armor shining under the dying sun. The Alliance had no chance left. Still, Yara refused to surrender. She looked out at the chaos through the wide bridge window. "If we fall," she whispered, "we fall fighting." But then, the alarms changed. The radar screen froze for a second, then glitched. A strange distortion appeared at the edge of the battlefield. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't debris. It was something huge, so large that it bent light around it. "What is that?" Yara asked. The sensor officer shook his head. "No readings, Captain. It's invisible. Like something cloaked." For a brief moment, even the Xeran fleet stopped firing. The massive shape hung in the dark like a shadow that shouldn't exist. The radar flickered again, trying to track it. "Is it one of ours?" Yara asked. "No, ma'am," the officer replied. "No signature matches any known Alliance or Xeran design." The bridge grew silent. Every eye turned to the screen as the strange distortion moved slowly between the two fleets. It didn't fire. It didn't send any signal. It just drifted, quiet and unseen, like a ghost in space. Then the lights dimmed. A pulse spread through the void, a deep, low vibration that everyone felt in their bones. The Xeran ships began to turn their guns toward it, scanning, confused. Suddenly, the distortion shimmered. Space itself seemed to tear apart. The cloak dropped, and the unknown ship was revealed. Gasps filled the bridge. The ship was massive, larger than a dreadnought, covered in black armor that absorbed light. Strange symbols glowed faintly along its surface, old and worn. No one recognized the design, but on one side, half-burned yet clear, were 3 words written in ancient letters: United Earth Command. Captain Yara's breath caught. "Earth," she whispered. The bridge crew looked at her in disbelief. Earth, the lost world, the one erased from galactic records centuries ago. Humanity had disappeared long before the Alliance was formed. But now, in the middle of a dying battle, a ship from that forgotten world had just decloaked. The Xeran fleet reacted first. They fired everything: torpedoes, beams, missiles, all crashing against the dark hull. Nothing happened. The blasts vanished into the black armor like stones sinking in deep water. No damage. No response. The human ship didn't move. It just stayed there, silent, surrounded by fire. Then, a voice echoed across every communication channel, deep and calm, not human but almost human. "Warning, conflict detected. Engaging defense protocol." The words were clear and cold. Yara felt a chill run down her spine. The Xeran continued firing, desperate to destroy the new threat. But then the unknown ship began to move. Its engines flared with blue-white light that bent space itself. Energy built along its sides, bright enough to blind sensors. The Alliance ships backed away, their systems screaming from interference. "Captain," her sensor officer whispered, "whatever that ship is, it's charging something massive." Yara could only watch. A beam of pure light burst from the front of the human ship, a single shot, silent and clean. It hit a Xeran dreadnought. The dreadnought vanished. Not exploded, vanished. The space it occupied turned white, then empty. The shockwave rolled through the fleets, disabling sensors for light years. When vision returned, the dreadnought was gone. Only dust remained. The entire battlefield froze. No one fired. No one moved. The voice spoke again, this time quieter. Hostile threat neutralized. Further aggression will result in total erasure. Yara's heart pounded. She had never heard such authority, such calm power. The human ship slowly turned, scanning the area. Every Xeran ship began retreating at once, breaking formation, running for the edge of the system. Even the fearless Xeran warlord's flagship began to pull back. The Alliance fleet held position, stunned and silent. Yara whispered to herself, "Who are you?" But the ship gave no answer. It just floated there, huge and silent, glowing faintly against the stars. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy remembered the name, humanity. And everyone felt the same fear rising inside them. If this was only one ship, what else had Earth built before it vanished? The battlefield over Trion Prime was quiet now, but the silence felt heavy and unnatural. The Alliance fleet drifted among the wreckage, their ships scarred and half-broken. The Xeran had fled, leaving behind burning hulks and shattered cruisers. Only one vessel remained untouched, the massive black ship that had appeared out of nowhere. It floated near the center of the battle zone, its hull dark as night, its engines humming softly. No one dared to move closer. Captain Yara stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, staring at it through the observation window. It looked alive somehow, like it was watching them. Her crew whispered in low voices, afraid to even breathe too loud. "No signals," said the comms officer quietly. "We've tried every frequency. It's not responding." Yara frowned. "What about its power readings?" The sensor officer shook his head. "They're impossible to read, Captain. The energy output keeps shifting. One moment it's off the scale, then it drops to nothing." Yara crossed her arms. "What do we know so far?" "It's nearly 2 kilometers long," the officer said. "No known design matches it. Hull densities far beyond any Alliance or Xeran metal. It's like the ship was built to survive the end of the universe." The captain's eyes didn't leave the window. The words painted a chilling picture. A ship that strong, that advanced. Who could have made it? She thought about the markings she saw earlier. United Earth Command. The name echoed in her mind. Humanity, vanished long ago, erased from history, their world silent. The Alliance archives said they were destroyed in the Dark Expansion Wars. But if that was true, how could this ship exist? "Maybe it's a fake," her second officer suggested nervously. "A trick. Maybe the Xeran built it to scare us." Yara gave him a hard look. "The Xeran don't build ghosts," she said. "They destroy them." Outside, the strange ship slowly rotated, revealing more of its armored hull. Small lights flickered along its sides, like old runes waking up after centuries of sleep. The crew watched in awe. Then, the voice returned, soft, echoing across all open channels. "This is Automated Defense Vessel Erebus. Identity confirmed, human origin. Protocol 9 active." Everyone froze. The comms officer's hands shook. It's speaking." Yara leaned closer to the console. "This is Captain Yara of the Galactic Alliance. Identify yourself." For a long moment, nothing. Then the voice replied, calm and mechanical. "No human command detected. Defensive status engaged. Unknown fleets present. Assessment in progress." Yara exchanged looks with her officers. "No human command detected," she repeated softly. "That means it's unmanned." The realization hit her like a wave. The ship was acting on its own, controlled by an ancient AI that had survived all this time. How long had it been out there, hidden in deep space, waiting? "Captain," the science officer said quietly, "if this is a human warship, it's been sleeping for at least 500 years. Yara's pulse quickened. And it just woke up in the middle of our war. The Erebus began to move again. Its massive engines glowed blue, pushing it slowly toward the wreckage field. As it passed, the floating debris, broken metal, shattered hulls, were pulled aside by invisible force fields. It was cleaning the battlefield. The Alliance crew watched in stunned silence as the ship restored order around itself. The Ziran's dead ships drifted away, their remains scattering into space dust. "Captain," the comms officer whispered, "we're receiving a data ping from the human ship." "Open it," Yara ordered. The message unfolded on the screen. It was short, only 3 lines of text. "To any who remain among the stars, Earth remembers. The cycle begins again." The bridge went completely silent. "Earth remembers." The words sounded like both a promise and a warning. Yara felt a shiver down her spine. "What does that mean?" she asked softly. "It means," said the science officer, voice shaking, "they're not extinct." The crew exchanged uneasy looks. The idea of humanity, ancient, forgotten, and suddenly returning, was something no one could process easily. For centuries, the galaxy had believed humans were gone. But now, one of their ships stood before them, powerful enough to erase an entire Ziran fleet. "Captain," a voice said from the back. It was Lieutenant Varen, her tactical officer. "Should we contact the Council? They need to know about this." Yara hesitated. "If we tell the Council," she said slowly, "they'll try to control it. Or destroy it. And I don't think this ship would allow that." She turned back toward the window. The Erebus had stopped moving. Its weapons were offline, but its presence was still overwhelming. The stars reflected off its black hull like tiny sparks on a sleeping giant. Suddenly, a pulse of energy rippled through the void. The ship emitted a faint blue wave that spread across the system. Every Alliance ship received the same message, a holographic projection in the air above their consoles. It showed a human figure, dressed in old Earth military uniform, face hidden in shadow. "To those who inherit the stars," the hologram said, "we warned you once. Do not repeat our mistakes. This vessel will ensure peace through final deterrence." The message ended. Silence followed. Yara felt her breath catch in her throat. The Erebus wasn't just a ship. It was a guardian, a weapon designed to enforce peace through fear. "Peace through final deterrence," she whispered. "How many of these ships did they make?" The science officer looked pale. "If this was just one, Captain, there could be more." Yara stared into the blackness where the ship floated, her mind spinning. The galaxy had just learned something terrifying, that humanity's legacy wasn't gone. It was waiting, watching, hidden in the dark, ready to return. As the Vanguard drifted beside the silent Titan, the crew of the Alliance fleet realized they were not witnessing a miracle. They were witnessing a warning. The stars above Trion Prime still burned from the battle, but the real war was only beginning. The human warship Erebus floated silently, its black hull gleaming like obsidian under distant starlight. The Alliance fleet stayed at a cautious distance, not daring to provoke it. Captain Yara stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, her eyes locked on the massive vessel. Every sensor showed readings that made no sense. Energy levels were off the charts, power signatures beyond any known technology. And still, it remained motionless, as if thinking. "Captain," said the comms officer softly, "we are detecting movement from the Ziran side. They're regrouping. It looks like reinforcements are arriving." Yara's stomach turned cold. The Ziran Empire never accepted defeat easily. She knew they would come back, this time with a full armada. The Erebus might have destroyed one dreadnought, but an entire invasion fleet was another matter. "How long before they reach us?" she asked. 20 minutes at best," the officer replied. "Hundreds of ships, maybe more." Yara stared at the dark shape of the human ship. "Then everything depends on that thing." The Erebus suddenly lit up. Blue-white energy ran along its hull like veins coming to life. A deep vibration passed through the void, powerful enough to rattle even the Vanguard structure. It's activating something, the science officer said, his voice trembling. Captain, I've never seen energy signatures like this. It's rewriting local physics. Yara looked out through the viewport as the human ship began to move. Slowly, gracefully, it positioned itself between the Alliance fleet and the incoming Xeran reinforcements. The air on the bridge felt heavy, as if even space itself was holding its breath. What are you doing? Yara whispered under her breath. Then the voice came again. The same calm, commanding tone that had frozen the galaxy hours ago. Multiple hostiles detected. Final defense sequence authorized. All non-hostile vessels, withdraw to minimum safe distance. Yara's heart pounded. It's talking to us, she said. It's warning us. Safe distance? Her second officer asked nervously. From what? Yara didn't answer. She could only feel the weight of what was about to happen. Get us back, she ordered. Now. The Vanguard and the remaining Alliance cruisers began to move away, engines burning bright. Behind them, the Erebus glowed like a newborn star. The Xeran reinforcements arrived, their ships filling the system like a tide of darkness. Their commanders did not hesitate. They wanted revenge. Thousands of plasma torpedoes and energy beams filled the void, all directed at one target, the human ship. But the Erebus did not move. The blasts hit its hull and vanished without a trace. It was like watching rain fall into an endless ocean. Then came the sound, or rather, the vibration. Deep and low, echoing through every ship's hull. The space around Erebus shimmered, bending and warping. The stars behind it blurred and twisted as if the universe itself was being pulled apart. Captain, the science officer said, panic rising in his voice. I think it's opening something. A spatial rift, maybe a weapon. A weapon, Yara repeated. What kind of weapon opens the fabric of space? No one answered. The crew could only watch as the dark ship's central spine began to unfold, revealing a long, rotating structure inside. Blue-white energy spiraled around it, forming a ring of light larger than a planet. The voice spoke again, now cold and absolute. Engaging Phase 2. Target, hostile fleet. Probability of survival, 0. The ring pulsed once, and the universe screamed. A beam of pure light burst forth, silent but blinding. It swept across the Xeran armada like the hand of a god. Where it passed, ships ceased to exist. Not exploded, erased. Gone without debris, without fire, without even sound. The energy beam carved through the fleet, and in seconds, thousands of ships vanished into nothing. The beam stopped, leaving behind only silence and dust. The system that had been filled with death and fire was suddenly calm again. Captain Yara stared at the empty stars, her mind unable to process what she had just seen. That wasn't a weapon, she whispered. That was extinction. The crew stood frozen in silence. Every screen showed the same readings, 0 life signs, 0 active ships. The Xeran fleet, one of the largest in their history, was gone. The Erebus powered down slowly, its lights dimming again. It floated quietly, like a predator that had gone back to sleep after the hunt. Then the voice returned, softer this time, almost sorrowful. Hostile threat neutralized. Directive complete. Awaiting next protocol. Yara could barely breathe. Next protocol, she repeated quietly. What does that mean? The science officer looked pale. Captain, if it's following old human orders, maybe it has other objectives. Maybe this is just the beginning. Yara shook her head slowly. If humanity built ships like this, why did they ever vanish? What could have made them hide? The comms officer interrupted. Captain, there's a new signal. It's coming from deep space. It's directed at the Erebus. Yara turned sharply. From where? Unknown source, he said. But, it's using human encryption codes. The bridge went dead silent again. The Erebus suddenly reactivated, engines roaring to life. Its hull glowed with golden light this time, brighter and warmer than before. The voice spoke one last time. Signal confirmed. Directive 9 continues. Returning to origin point. Yara watched in awe as the massive ship began to turn. A bright gate of light opened before it, a vortex swirling with blue fire. The Erebus moved toward it, slow and steady. Before vanishing inside, the voice echoed once more across every channel in the system. Earth remembers. The gate closed, and the ship was gone. The battlefield was silent once more, but every soul who witnessed that moment knew the truth. Humanity was not lost. They were out there, waiting, watching, armed with the power to end wars with a single thought. And now, something had called them home. The galaxy was no longer calm. Across every star system, the same strange signal began to echo. It was a soft pulse, repeating every few minutes, moving through the void faster than light. Every advanced species detected it, every council, every empire, every fleet. The message carried a single phrase, translated into every known language: Earth remembers. The Galactic Council called an emergency meeting. Representatives from 100 species gathered in the Grand Chamber, voices rising in panic. They had all seen the recordings, the Erebus destroying the Xeran fleet in a single strike, erasing thousands of ships without leaving debris. It was the most terrifying weapon the galaxy had ever seen, and it carried the name of a species that was supposed to be extinct. The room buzzed with fear and anger. Some demanded immediate action, others called for peace. But one thing was clear to everyone: humanity had returned, and no one knew what they wanted. "We erased them from history for a reason," growled the Xeran warlord, his metallic armor clicking as he leaned forward. "Humans were chaos. They made weapons that broke worlds. If they are back, we must strike first." Across the table, an older alien diplomat from the Alliance spoke calmly. "Strike first? Against what? One ship destroyed your entire fleet. What chance would you have against many?" The chamber fell silent. Even the Xeran could not argue with that. The council leader, an ancient being made of light, raised a glowing hand for silence. "We need answers, not fear. We must find where that ship came from." At that exact moment, deep in Alliance space, Captain Yara stood once again on the bridge of the Vanguard. Her ship had barely survived the battle, but the image of the Erebus was burned into her memory. She couldn't sleep. She couldn't stop hearing that calm voice. Directive 9 continues. She was now obsessed with finding out what it meant. "Captain," said her comms officer, "we've received a priority transmission from the Council. They want us to trace the human signal." Yara nodded slowly. "They're scared," she said. "And they should be." The science officer pointed to the main screen. "We've triangulated the source of the pulse. It's coming from the Sol system." Yara froze. "Sol? Yes, Captain. The birthplace of humanity." Her eyes widened. "Earth." The word felt strange to say. For generations, it had been just a legend, a story whispered in old archives. Now it was real again. "Set a course," Yara ordered. "We're going to find out what happened to them." The Vanguard jumped through hyperspace, traveling for days through silent systems and forgotten sectors. Each time they scanned the signal, it grew stronger, more structured. It wasn't random, it was a beacon, guiding them home. When they finally dropped out of warp, the crew gasped. Before them was a star system shrouded in thick radiation clouds. Their instruments struggled to read it. The sun burned dimly behind a haze of energy. "Sensors can't penetrate the interference," said the officer. "But the signal's strongest near the third planet." Yara leaned closer to the window. Through the glowing mist, she saw it, a blue world, small but shining faintly beneath a web of darkness. "Earth," she whispered. "It's real." As the ship moved closer, strange anomalies appeared. Space itself seemed to bend and flicker. "Captain, the readings are impossible," said the science officer. "It's like the entire planet is cloaked." The crew watched in awe as fragments of light peeled away, revealing parts of the surface below. Cities, massive, ancient cities, sleeping under energy domes. Those structures, they're still powered, Yara said softly. How? Before anyone could answer, a blinding light filled the bridge. A transmission broke through every frequency, and a voice echoed, clear, strong, human. To those who seek Earth, you have entered restricted space. Identify yourselves. Yara's heart pounded. A real human voice. She replied quickly. This is Captain Yara of the Galactic Alliance. We come in peace. We found one of your ships, designation Erebus. We want to understand. There was silence for a moment. Then the voice spoke again, quieter this time. Erebus. You were not meant to find it. What are you? Yara asked. Who's speaking? The voice paused, then said, We are the Watchers. Guardians of what remains. Humanity is not gone. Only hidden. The transmission ended abruptly. The energy field around Earth began to shift. Massive dark structures emerged from orbit, ring-like stations, old but powerful. Yara's crew stared in disbelief. Those are defense platforms, the tactical officer said. Hundreds of them. One of the rings glowed faintly, and a signal pinged the vanguard. Captain, said the comms officer, they're inviting us closer. Yara hesitated. It could be a trap. But her curiosity burned stronger than fear. Take us in. As the vanguard moved through the cloud barrier, the crew saw the truth of Earth. The planet was alive, covered in cities of silver and light, hidden under a vast cloaking field. Gigantic ships rested in orbit, dark and silent, each one the size of the Erebus or larger. Dear stars, whispered the science officer. This is an entire fleet. The comms came alive again. Welcome home, travelers, said the same human voice. You stand at the gates of the last human stronghold, Soul Defense Network. The age of silence is over. Yara stood speechless. Humanity hadn't died. They had been preparing. The field around Earth brightened, spreading waves of energy that reached the far edges of the system. Every scanner in the galaxy detected it instantly. The council chambers erupted in chaos as readings came in. Earth was alive. And armed. The voice from Sol echoed across the stars once more, stronger this time, in every language. We warned you long ago. The stars forgot, but Earth remembers. If peace fails again, extinction will follow. The message repeated 3 times, then fell silent. Across the galaxy, leaders stared at one another in fear. The Alliance ships near Earth could only watch as the sleeping planet awakened, and Captain Yara finally understood. The Erebus had never been a weapon of war. It was a messenger, a signal to announce that humanity was returning, and that the galaxy was about to face judgment for what it had done. The news spread across the stars faster than light. Every world, every fleet, every government now knew the truth. Earth was alive, and humanity had returned. The message from Sol echoed in the minds of all who heard it. If peace fails again, extinction will follow. It was not just a warning. It was a promise. Panic rippled through the galaxy. The Xeran Empire declared martial law, afraid that humanity would strike next. The Alliance Council sent desperate messages to Earth, pleading for communication. Even the neutral worlds began evacuating their outer colonies, fearful that war was coming again. But Earth remained silent. The great planet, shrouded in its mysterious cloak, made no move. No ships left its orbit, no fleets appeared. It was as if the entire system was waiting. Captain Yara's ship, the Vanguard, still hovered near the edge of Sol's defensive perimeter. They had been allowed to stay, but not to leave. The human voice that had spoken before had gone quiet. Days passed with no sign of activity, but the feeling of being watched never faded. Captain, said the science officer one morning, you should see this. He pointed to the display. Across dozens of nearby systems, long-dead satellites and probes were coming online. Ancient human technology, devices thought lost for centuries, were suddenly active again. They're waking up, the officer said softly. Yara stared at the screen. The machines were transmitting data, linking together across impossible distances. "They're building a network," she said. "Something's coordinating them." The comms officer turned from his station. "Captain, one of the signals is transmitting directly toward Earth. I think it's feeding information into the planet's cloak." Yara frowned. "What kind of information?" The officer hesitated. "Military movements. Ship deployments. Every active fleet in the galaxy." Yara's heart sank. Humanity wasn't just waking up, they were watching everyone. "Keep monitoring," she said. "Do not interfere." Outside the Vanguard, space seemed to hum. The massive defense rings around Earth glowed faintly, one by one, as if reacting to the growing network. Each ring spun slowly, emitting pulses of energy that rippled outward like waves in a pond. "Captain," said her tactical officer, "those rings are sinking. Whatever they're doing, it's system-wide." Yara felt a chill. "The last time we saw something like this," she said quietly, "a Xeran fleet disappeared in seconds." The crew fell silent. Every man and woman on board could feel the tension in the air, the weight of something enormous about to happen. Then, a soft chime broke the silence. A new transmission was coming through. It wasn't from Earth this time. It was from deep space, unknown coordinates. The voice was human, but distorted. "To all listening vessels," it said, "the Ark wakes. The Guardians rise. Do not interfere with the awakening." The message repeated twice, then cut off. The room went still. "The Ark," Yara said. "What does that mean?" Before anyone could answer, alarms blared. The sensors picked up massive energy signatures all across Sol's outer rim. "Multiple warp breaches," shouted the sensor officer. "Objects incoming. Thousands of them." Yara rushed to the viewport. Space lit up with bright flashes. One after another, enormous shapes emerged from hyperspace, warships, dark and ancient, bearing the same markings as the Erebus. The ships formed into perfect formation without a word. Their hulls gleamed with the faint blue light of active shields. "By the stars," whispered the comms officer. "That's an entire fleet." Yara's voice trembled. "Not a fleet," she said. "A resurrection." The newly arrived ships moved into orbit around Earth, forming vast rings of protection. Their engines pulsed rhythmically, perfectly synchronized. The power readings made the Vanguard's instruments flicker and die. "Our systems can't handle this energy," the engineer shouted. "It's like standing next to a supernova." Yara held her ground, eyes locked on the sight before her. "Record everything," she said firmly. "The Council will want proof." But deep inside, she knew the truth. The Council wouldn't believe it until they saw it themselves. Suddenly, a single transmission broke through the static. It came directly from Earth, clear and calm. "This is Command Node 1 of the Sol Defense Network. The reactivation process is complete. Phase 2 begins." The message ended, and the ground below began to move. From Earth's oceans, vast shadows emerged, ships rising from the water, enormous and silent. They broke the surface in waves, ancient hulls dripping with mist. Each ship looked older than history itself, yet their metal shone as if newly forged. "Captain," whispered her science officer, "those are planetary defense ships. They've been buried for centuries." Yara couldn't speak. She could only watch as dozens of Titan-class vessels took to the skies, joining the fleet above. Humanity wasn't just defending, they were rebuilding an empire. Across the galaxy, panic turned to terror. The Xeran ordered their fleets to the border. The Council debated sending ambassadors, but no one dared approach Sol again. The message from Earth was too clear: do not interfere. And still, Yara stayed. She needed answers. Late that night, as her ship orbited near the shadow of Mars, a new transmission came. Private, direct, meant only for her. The voice was human, calm and familiar. "Captain Yara of the Vanguard. You seek answers. You will find them soon. The Guardians have awakened because the galaxy has forgotten peace. We will not allow the same mistakes again. Who are you? She whispered. Where did you come from? The voice paused. From the ashes of your past. From Earth. Then the signal ended. Yara stood in silence, her thoughts racing. The galaxy was about to change forever. The humans had returned not for conquest, but for balance. But balance, she realized, could be just as terrifying as war. Far below, the planet's surface began to glow with lines of light, stretching across continents. The sleeping world was awake now, and every pulse of that blue light carried a single message across the universe: Earth remembers. The entire galaxy held its breath. Every sensor, every satellite, every intelligence network was locked on one place: Earth. After centuries of silence, humanity had risen again, and the scale of their awakening shook the foundations of every major power. On the Vanguard, Captain Yara watched as reports flooded in. Across the stars, fleets were moving, alliances forming, and old enemies preparing for war. Yet, in the middle of it all, Earth remained calm, silent, and unmoving, watching. The Council was in chaos. In a secure chamber orbiting the core world of Therax Prime, leaders of 100 species shouted over one another. "We cannot allow this," roared the Xeran delegate, his mandibles clicking in fury. "Humanity threatens galactic stability." The Rithian representative slammed his staff down. "You would speak of stability after what your empire did to their colonies? They have every right to defend themselves." The room erupted into noise again until a booming voice silenced them. It was Counselor Juno, the oldest surviving human representative, one who had lived long enough to remember the First Contact War. "Enough," she said. "We provoked them once. We will not survive if we do it again." Silence followed her words. Even the Xeran delegate dared not argue. "Then what do you propose?" one of the alien leaders asked. "Do we just sit and wait?" Juno's eyes glowed faintly under the chamber lights. "We observe. And we pray they do not consider us a threat." Meanwhile, back in the Sol system, humanity's ancient fleet continued its quiet movements. The reactivated ships, thousands of them, were aligning into strange formations across the solar system. Some orbited Jupiter, others stationed near Saturn's rings, while the largest gathered around Earth and Mars. The energy readings were unlike anything the Vanguard had ever recorded. "Captain," said her science officer, "it's as if they're building a web." "A web?" Yara frowned. "Explain." "Each ship is transmitting energy along specific vectors, linking with others. It's like they're forming an energy grid, one that spans the entire solar system." "A shield," Yara guessed. "Not exactly," the officer replied. "It's more complex. It's bending gravity, altering space itself." Yara turned to the viewport, her voice barely a whisper. "They're building something far greater than a shield." Then, as if answering her question, Earth's surface flared again. Massive rings of light appeared across the oceans, glowing blue and white. One by one, beams of energy shot upward, connecting with the waiting ships in orbit. The entire system lit up like a star being born. "Captain," shouted the engineer, shielding his eyes, "our systems can't handle this much radiation. The entire grid is going critical." "Hold position," Yara ordered. "I need full readings." Outside, space rippled. The very fabric of reality seemed to twist, bending under unseen forces. And then, it stopped. Everything went still. The light vanished, leaving behind a deep, eerie silence. "Report," Yara demanded. The science officer stared at his console. "Captain, I don't understand. According to our sensors, the entire Sol system has shifted." "Shifted?" "Yes, ma'am. Its position in the galaxy, it's changed. It's no longer where it was before." The bridge went silent. "Are you saying they moved their solar system?" Yara whispered. "How is that even possible?" The officer could only shake his head. It defies every known law of physics. They didn't just move, it's like they phased into a different spatial layer. The system isn't even detectable through normal means anymore. Yara sat down slowly, her hands trembling. Humanity hadn't built a weapon or a shield, they had hidden their entire civilization from the galaxy. They've cloaked their world, she said. An entire star system. Across the galaxy, panic exploded. The Ziran declared humanity a universal threat. Fleets were mobilized. Dozens of civilizations sent probes and ships toward Sol, desperate to understand what had happened. None returned. Every vessel that entered Sol's last known coordinates vanished without a trace. The galaxy began whispering a new name for Earth, the Phantom World. In secret council channels, some whispered that humanity had left the galaxy entirely. Others believed they were preparing for something far worse. But Yara knew the truth. They were still there, watching. Days later, the Vanguard received a transmission. It was faint, distorted, but unmistakably human. "Captain Yara," the voice said, "do not fear. Sol remains. You are witnessing humanity's second ascension." "Ascension," Yara repeated. "What does that mean?" "We have hidden our world to rebuild in peace. The galaxy is not ready for what comes next. When the time arrives, you will understand." The message cut off, and no further signals came. Yara sat in silence for a long time, trying to comprehend what she'd heard. The humans weren't fleeing, they were preparing. But for what? That night, she stood alone at the viewport. The stars beyond seemed empty, as if part of the universe itself had been erased. Yet deep down, she felt their presence, watching, waiting, calculating. Humanity had transcended fear. They had become something the galaxy couldn't comprehend. And for the first time, Yara truly understood why every empire had feared Earth. They didn't conquer with numbers or power, they conquered with mystery. They had mastered the one thing the galaxy never could: silence. Far beyond the reach of any scanner, hidden behind layers of warped reality, the human fleet gathered in orbit around a glowing construct near the sun. It was enormous, larger than any station ever built. Its design pulsed with energy that bent the light around it. A name glowed across its hull: Arc 1. Deep within its core, a human voice spoke softly. "The galaxy believes we've vanished," it said. "Let them believe it. For now." Another voice responded, calm and certain. "And when we return?" The first voice smiled. "Then they will remember why humanity should never be underestimated." And in the endless dark between the stars, the humans continued their work, quiet, patient, and unseen. The storm was only beginning. The galaxy had changed forever. Months had passed since the mysterious vanishing of the Sol system, and the Council's fear had only grown. Trade routes near old human territories were now abandoned. Fleets that once patrolled proudly now moved with caution, scanning every shadow in space as if expecting ghosts to emerge. Whispers spread in every corner of the galaxy. Rumors that human ships had been seen, briefly, flickering in and out of existence like phantoms before vanishing again. Some said they were observing. Others claimed they were hunting. On the council world of Therax Prime, panic filled the halls. The Ziran Empire's warlord, Krothtor, stood before the council chamber, his claws clenching the edge of the table. "We must strike first," he snarled. "Before they return, before they bring whatever abominations they're building behind that cloak." "Strike what?" demanded the Rithian ambassador. "You can't strike a ghost. The Sol system is gone, hidden beyond our reach." Krothtor slammed his fist on the table, cracking the surface. "Then we find them. The humans cannot hide forever." From the shadows, Counselor Juno stepped forward. Her human features were calm, but her voice carried weight. "You don't understand them," she said softly. "You're trying to fight a species that doesn't think like the rest of us. They don't conquer worlds, they change the rules of war itself." The Ziran growled. "And you would have us wait? They will come for us, eventually. Juno's eyes glimmered. Perhaps. But when they do, no amount of waiting or preparing will save you. Silence filled the room. Deep down, they all knew she was right. Humanity's unpredictability was what terrified them most. While others built fleets and armies, humans built ideas, and ideas were harder to destroy. Far beyond the reach of the Council's sensors, in the hidden layers of warped space, the Sol system existed in complete silence. The stars burned brighter here, their light twisted through invisible barriers. In orbit around Earth, the massive construct known as Arc-1 pulsed with living energy. Within its core, human commanders studied vast holographic projections of the galaxy. Admiral Rains, the leader of the Sol Defense Network, stood at the center of the command platform. His eyes scanned the data streams showing thousands of Council fleet movements. "They're preparing for war," he said. "Every major power has doubled their military output. The Ziran have already armed their border worlds." "Expected," replied a calm female voice. It belonged to Director Mira Solon, head of the ARC initiative. "Fear is a predictable reaction. They believe we've built a weapon that could destroy them all." Rains turned toward her. "And have we?" Mira smiled faintly. "We've built something far more dangerous. Knowledge." With a gesture, she expanded the hologram, showing hundreds of human vessels spread across the galaxy. "These are our silent fleets," she explained. "Each one cloaked in dark matter fields. They observe, record, and learn. The galaxy still thinks we've vanished, but in truth, we're everywhere." "And when we reveal ourselves?" asked another officer. "When the time is right," Mira said. "Not before." Rains crossed his arms, watching as one of the silent fleets appeared briefly in a distant sector before fading again. "The Council won't wait forever," he warned. "Sooner or later, they'll send something powerful enough to test us." Mira nodded. "Then we'll remind them why peace is the only option." Back in open space, near the edge of known territory, the Vanguard drifted through the void. Captain Yara and her crew remained under strict observation orders. They were one of the few non-human ships still alive after the Sol disappearance. "Captain," said her comms officer suddenly, "I think we've found something." On the screen, a faint distortion appeared, a ripple in space, barely visible, but clearly artificial. "It's a signature similar to the Sol anomaly," the officer said. "A smaller one." Yara leaned forward. "Mark the coordinates. Prepare a drone." As the drone launched, it approached the distortion carefully. The crew watched in silence. Then, in an instant, the drone's signal vanished. "We lost it," the officer said. "Completely. No trace, no feedback." "It's them," Yara whispered. "Humans. They're testing their technology outside the Sol system." Her science officer looked uneasy. "If they're expanding that cloaking tech, they could hide entire sectors." Yara nodded slowly. "Maybe they already have." Suddenly, a faint signal flickered through the comms channel. A single human voice spoke, soft, calm, and clear. "Captain Yara, you were told not to interfere." Yara froze. "Who is this? How are you transmitting through this channel?" The voice continued, ignoring her question. "You have seen enough. Do not follow. This is your only warning." Then, silence. The transmission ended, and the distortion faded from view. The crew sat in stunned silence. "They knew we were here," the officer said. "They're everywhere," Yara murmured. "And they let us see that, on purpose." Meanwhile, far away, Admiral Rains stood on the observation deck of Arc-1. Through the transparent dome, Earth glowed below, its continents alive with blue energy lines. "It begins," Mira said quietly beside him. "The galaxy's balance will soon shift. They've watched us long enough. And if they come for us again?" Rains asked. "Then," Mira said with a cold smile, "they'll finally see what humanity has become." On the edge of the hidden Sol system, an enormous structure began to activate. It was unlike anything ever built before. Part machine, part living organism, a gateway pulsing with energy strong enough to bend the very fabric of reality. As the energy grew, the stars beyond seemed to distort. Phase 3, Mira whispered. Project Horizon. Across the galaxy, distant sensors flickered and failed. Communications went dark. And for the first time since Earth's disappearance, every civilization looked toward the stars with dread. Humanity was moving again, but no one knew where or why. In the silence of space, a single message spread like wildfire through encrypted networks and whispered transmissions. The humans are coming back.